Hey guys, I want to talk to you guys today about a huge mistake that a lot of people make in their later working years that can really impact their retirement negatively. And I know a lot of people do this. I've seen it. So my hope for today is to kind of scare you enough into rethinking this decision if you're going to do it, or at least developing a real plan around it, because that's the biggest problem, is that people do this without sort of thinking about the ramifications of what they're doing. They just know that they can afford it now, and so they do it. And I'll explain what that is. Very simple, and then I'm going to give a pretty basic example of how this could actually look in the real world. So what I want you to avoid, especially if you're in your 50s or getting closer to retirement, is going out and being like, you know what, we need a bigger, better home, and then getting into a new mortgage that you will not have paid off by the time that you retire. I try and avoid that almost at all costs, because if you have a mortgage as you're entering retirement that you have to pay for another 10, 15, sometimes I've seen 20 years, well, that's going to really impact your retirement planning, and I don't think a lot of people really think about that. So obviously there are exceptions to this rule. Same way that there's exceptions to every rule in financial planning, but for the most part, for average Canadians, you're going to want to avoid this. So here's my example. We've got a couple, and they are 50 years old, and they live in a $300,000 house, and they have $200,000 left remaining on their mortgage at a 3% interest rate. With 15 years left, their payments are $1,384 per month. They're going to be mortgage free when they want to retire at 65. Currently in assets, they have $100,000 each in their RSPs. They're both adding $600 a month to their RSPs. They're going to keep doing that. And they want to retire at 65, like I said. You know, they're in a pretty good financial position. When we look at how much money they make about $9,200 together after tax in Alberta, I'm using, that they take home every month. They've got their $1,400 mortgage payment, and they're saving $1,200 for their retirement. So if we take that down, now they live off of roughly $6,600 a month. For their retirement goal, they want to be able to have an income of $6,000 after tax every single month. On the track that they're going on, they're very close to reaching this goal. They're in the 95% range. If they get a 5% rate of return on their RSP assets, then they're going to be able to retire with $69,500 per year indexed to inflation. One thing that I forgot to mention is that the wife, she's going to get 100% CPP at 65, and the husband, he's only going to get 75% CPP at 65, because he thought he was going to be a musician in his 30s, and he was playing in a band and living off his wife, and he made like 50 bucks a year being an awesome musician in his 30s. So most people don't get full CPP for whatever reason, so that's why I did that. Now they are definitely close enough to their retirement goals that there are easily some things that we can do to make sure that happens. They could reinvest their tax return from their RSP contributions into their TFSAs or even their RSPs. They could increase their savings with inflation. They could reduce their investment fees. They could take potentially more risk with their investments to try and get a higher rate of return. There are a whole bunch of things that we can do, but they are close. And they don't really have a whole lot of wiggle room with their budget. They can't really save more based on the way that they're living. So that's where they are. They're close, but if something really bad happens, COVID, gets unemployed, whatever, this could really put a huge dent in their retirement planning. Everybody can always work part-time in retirement or retire later. But now this is what they're going to do, and my example is like too simple, and in the real world it wouldn't actually look like this because people would want more. It's just the way that it goes. But what they've decided is they say, well, we can easily afford this $1,384 a month payment. Interest rates are low. Everything's great. Let's go get a new forever home. So they go out and they say, okay, what can we get for the same payment if we take our equity of $100,000, even though they wouldn't have that after realtor fees and closing costs and whatever. They put all of that into their new house. So now they have a $291,000 mortgage on a $391,000 house, and they want to keep their payments the exact same and just keep doing everything. So they got a new 25-year mortgage, and they're just gonna pay that off, and in their heads they're like, we'll get this paid off by retirement, but they have no actual plan on how to do that. They don't even really have extra money to do that. So they never actually do it. Now, how does that impact their retirement? Well, in this case, they're basically dropping their retirement income by, I wish I had remembered this, by about $5,400 per year for the remainder of their life. So now they have $441 less per month to live off of than they would have just because they decided that they needed this new home. And I know that that doesn't sound too bad, but I mean, this is coming from a place where, they're going to go into the bank, they're going to talk to their advisor that's got their $200,000 RSPs in there, they're saving the $600 a month. He or she probably isn't going to run a real actual financial plan. He's just going to say, yeah, you're on pretty good track towards retirement, and this is how much you can qualify for, and ooh, look how nice that $500,000 house is, and oh, that's only, an extra $300 a month. We can easily find that, and now that's going to impact it even more. They might even take some of the equity and go, oh, we need to have a nice vacation because we deserve it after COVID or whatever. It doesn't matter. And I'm not saying necessarily like don't live your life and don't have the house that you really want, but you really need to think about this, and sometimes it's just legitimately not a good idea. So sometimes people need to be protected from themselves and the ability to borrow as much money as you can and not really think about the consequences of that. So don't make that mistake. Talk to a financial planner about it before you do it and really weigh the pros and cons of it. And I'll leave it at that. Thank you guys very much for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't, and stay safe.